Namaste everyone. How are you doing, children? I hope all of you are keeping yourself engaged in some purposeful activity back home. Children, today in this video, we'll take up the topic plant adaptations. And before we switch over to the main content of this video, let us know some important terms that we'll be using time and again. So, plant adaptations in terrestrial plants. So, first term is habitat. A place where an organism naturally lives is called its habitat. Then we have adaptations, special features required by an organism to adjust itself in a habitat are called adaptations. That means these are the special features which are needed for their survival. Then we have two types of plants, aquatic plants and terrestrial plants. As we know, aqua means water. So plants that grow in water are called aquatic plants and plants that grow on land are called terrestrial plants. Here in this video, we'll talk about terrestrial plants. But before we switch over to terrestrial plants, let us give a quick look to the adaptations shown by aquatic plants. If you remember this picture, so it covers all the four types of aquatic plants. The emergent plants, the examples are bulrush, arrowhead and sedges. Then we have fixed plants that includes lotus and water lily. Underwater plants includes hydrilla and Vallisneria, and floating plants and the examples are duckweed and water hyacinth. So with this, we'll switch over to today's session. So what we will learn? We'll learn about adaptations in terrestrial plants or plants that grow on land. So we know that different landforms are deserts, mountains and hills, plains, marshes, forests and coastal areas. So we'll learn about the adaptations that are shown by plants which grow in these different landforms, and also about some unique plants like insectivorous plants, non-green plants and parasitic plants. So let us come to the first landform, that is deserts. Desert plants. Desert plants are called xerophytes. They are adapted to grow in very hot and dry conditions. And examples are date palm, cactus and prickly pear. So children, as we know, the deserts are covered with sand, they lack water and are very hot. So let us see how desert plants are adapted to survive there. So adaptations by desert plants. First we'll talk about the stem. Stem is thick and fleshy and it helps to store water, as we know that there is water scarcity. Therefore, it has to keep stored water in itself. And then if we talk about leaves, leaves are modified to spines and they provide protection from other animals and reduce the water loss so that they do not lose water. And if we talk about roots, the roots, they grow deep into the ground to absorb water from there, right? With this, let us come to one very interesting fact about desert plant. This is a saguaro cactus found in deserts, can store up to 800 liters of water and can live up to 200 years, right? So can you see the amount of water it can hold? You can just imagine the water bottle that you bring to your school is of 1 liter, no? And see how much is 800 liters. So a lot of water, right? So with this fact, we'll switch over to the next landform, that is plants that are found in mountains and hills. So they are adapted to grow in very cold temperatures. Mountains remind us the snowfall and the cold temperature, right? Then examples are the pine, fir and cedar. So let us see what adaptations are shown by plants in mountains and hills. So trees are straight, tall, and cone shaped so that snow can easily slide off their branches. So that means this cone shaped structure from the top, it helps them to slide off the snow so that the snow does not break the branches. Then leaves. If we talk about leaves, leaves are needle shaped and have waxy coating so that snow does not accumulate on them. Can you see the needle like structure in all these plants, right? Then if we talk about the cones, these plants bear cones with seeds instead of flowers. See, it is very difficult for a plant or for to bear flowers as flowers will not survive in those harsh climatic conditions. So they bear cones for their survival, and these cones they bear seeds. So here I would like to mention your Christmas tree is also a kind of fir, right? Then we'll switch over to the plants that are found in plains. You know, Indian plains experience extreme temperature, typically very hot to very cold, though in summers, morning and evenings are pleasant, right? So they are adapted to survive in both hot and cold weather. Examples of plants that are found in plains are banyan tree, mango tree, or teak tree, right? Then adaptations by plants in plains. They have branches with plenty of leaves and flowers. See, these are altogether opposite from what we learnt in case of mountain plants. Mountain plants do not branch out and do not bear flowers, but here plants in plains they have many branches and they have plenty of leaves and flowers. Now some trees shed their leaves in autumn and grow new leaves in spring, so these are called deciduous trees. And then we have some trees which shed their leaves and grow new ones throughout the year. So they do not wait for autumn season. They keep losing their leaves and regrowing leaves all round the year. Right? So let us have a look at deciduous trees. This is a picture of deciduous trees. This is how they look in summer season and this is how they look in winter season, right? So your deciduous trees are sort of living calendars, because they keep a track of seasons. They show fresh green growth in spring, like nowadays you can see the fresh growth in plants. Then this fresh growth will eventually form a canopy, no? It will form a shady foliage in summers, and then they will drop off their leaves in autumn season, also called the autumn fall, and then they will become bare twigs in winters, right? So see all the seasons they experience and they respond to the seasons. But can you see some green trees at the back? Yes, these are some solid unchanging plants. No, they are not ready to shed their leaves because they have to ensure that nature should not lose all its greenery. So these are evergreen trees. So it is obvious how evergreens got their names, no? They keep their foliage all round the year. So if you look at these pictures, these are the dry leaves over here in all the three pictures, and then the fresh leaves coming out from the crown of the plant. So that means they keep shedding these old dry leaves and they keep growing new leaves all round the year. So they are called evergreen trees. If we look at some more evergreen trees, so eucalyptus is another example of evergreen tree, right? And no, they sometimes they grow to very impressive sizes also. Another example is banyan tree. I hope all of you know that this is our national tree also, and In winters also it remains green and provides shelter for birds in its foliage. Similarly, rubber tree is another example of evergreen trees. So with this we switch over to the plants that are found in marshy areas. Now first of all, what are marshy areas? Marshy areas are places that have wet, clay and sticky soil with water standing on its surface. Most of the plants that grow in marshy areas are called mangroves. So another important term, mangroves. Then examples are Avicennia and Rhizophora. Let us see what adaptations are shown by these plants. If you look at these plants, can you see these roots? Yes, these roots come out of the soil for breathing, right? So roots emerge out from the surface of marsh because of which the roots can breathe, and these are also called breathing roots, right? So with this we'll switch over to plants that are, sorry, here we have one interesting fact about mangroves, and these are mangrove forests in West Bengal and Bangladesh, and these are natural habitat for Royal Bengal tiger. So can you see this tiger venturing in mangroves? Yes. Okay, so with this we'll switch over to next plants that is found in forests. You know, forests are have warm climate and have lot of rainfall. So forests have warm climates with lot of rainfall throughout the year, and examples are mahogany, oak, maple and redwood. And what is the adaptation shown by plants in forests is plants grow tall with broad and abundant leaves to capture sunlight. So that is the adaptation shown by plants in forests. Then we'll switch over to plants that are found in coastal areas. Coastal areas are places close to sea. We know that these places have salty water and heavy rainfall, right? And examples of plants that are found in coastal areas are coconut. Adaptations by plants in coastal areas are these plants usually grow tall and straight, and they are adapted to survive salty water and heavy rainfall. So with this we come to the end of terrestrial plants. Then we'll switch over to some unique plants, right? Though fall in the category of terrestrial itself. So first is insectivorous plants. So insectivorous, another important terms. That means they eat insects, right? So these plants feed on small insects and live in a habitat where soil is poor in nutrition. That means these plants are found in places where the soil cannot cater to the enough nutrients that are required by them, or in thick forest where enough sunlight does not reach the forest floor. If they will not get enough sunlight, then they will not be able to photosynthesize, right? So examples of such plants are Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. Now let us take up Venus flytrap first. Venus flytrap, it has two lobes with hair-like spikes on its edges. The lobes snap shut when an insect sits on it. So this picture itself is self-explanatory, no? You can see these hair-like spikes. They are very sensitive. The moment any insect touches them, they close down and then they eat away the insect. Similarly, in case of pitcher plant, it is shaped like a pitcher as the name suggests. Its edges secrete a slippery substance due to which the insect sitting on it slips inside the pitcher. That means the rims of these plants are slippery. and the moment any insect sits over them, they slide off and then they are digested by the plants, right? So next we have uh, unique. In next category we have non-green plants, right? As the name suggests, non-greens means they do not have chlorophyll, right? So these plants do not contain green pigment chlorophyll and hence cannot carry out photosynthesis. Examples are coral root and Indian pipe. So let us see the adaptations shown by non-green plants. So how do they survive when they don't have chlorophyll? These plants absorb their food from dead plants and animals. So we'll switch over to next plant with this, and that is parasitic plants. So what are parasitic plants? These plants depend on other plants partially or completely for their nutrition, right? So they grow on other plants. For examples are cuscuta and mistletoe. So these, what are the adaptations shown by parasitic plants is that they grow on other plants and absorb nutrition from them. Then they often harm the plant on which they grow, right? Because they are eating away the nutrients from the plant. What all food, what all nutrients the plant is having, these plants are penetrating their roots into the branches and they are sucking the nutrients from the other plants. So they basically harm the other plants, right? So with this we come to the end of this topic, and let us take up some questions now. Now list adaptations showed by cactus plant. When we talk about cactus plant, we should know that they grow in deserts and the adaptations that are shown by desert plants. So, if we talk about stem, it is thick and fleshy and stores water. Then we have leaves reduced to spines for protection and to reduce the water loss. And then we talk about roots, they grow deep into the ground to absorb water. Now, list adaptations shown by pine tree. We know that pine tree, it grows on the mountains. So, what are the adaptations shown by them? That they are straight, tall and cone shaped so that the snow slides off the branches. Then needle shaped leaves and waxy coating does not allow the snow to accumulate on them, and they bear cones instead of flowers. Next we have what are deciduous trees. We have just learned that these trees they shed their leaves in autumn, and the examples are teak tree. Then we have evergreen trees. Those trees which shed their leaves but grow new ones throughout the year are called evergreen trees, and the examples are eucalyptus, rubber tree and coconut tree. Coconut tree is another example of evergreen tree, though found on coastal areas but evergreen, right? Then we have mangroves. So list adaptations and give examples. Okay, three things they have asked for. First is what are mangroves? Then we have to list their adaptations and then we have to give examples also. Let us see the first part. So mangroves are the plants that grow in marshy areas, and let us see the adaptations. That marshes are wet clay and sticky soil, and so the roots that emerge out from marsh so that they can breathe, and the examples are Avicennia and Rhizophora. Then another question is short note on insectivorous plants. So we know that they grow in places where soil is poor in nutrients and sunlight does not reach the floor, so they cannot photosynthesize. So they feed on insects, and examples are Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. Now, a short note on parasitic plants. We know that they depend on other plants for their food requirements. and they grow on other plants, and sometimes or often they harm the plant also, and the examples are cuscuta and mistletoe, right? So with this we come to the end of this session, children. So can you see this beautiful picture over here? This is a picture of mountain, and we know the plants that grow on mountains are, these are pine trees, right? Thank you for being with me, and thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and take care of yourselves.